I was 25 years old, and I was already behind. Not behind by a little, behind by a lot. Behind in ways I could not explain to my wife. Behind in ways I could not explain to myself. Every Monday morning, I woke up with the same good intentions. Every Friday evening, I went to bed with the same empty results. And I kept asking myself the same question. Why? I was working. I was trying. I was not a lazy man. So why was nothing changing? And then one afternoon, I sat down with a man who would alter the entire direction of my life. Ending, he did not give me a new job. He did not give me money. He gave me something far more valuable. He gave me a mirror. Ending, and when I looked into it, really looked, I did not see my habits first. I did not see my schedule first. The first thing I saw was the faces of the people I spent my time with. That was the beginning of the most important education of my life. Not a classroom education, a life education. And what I learned in those years, what I have spent decades sharing from stages around the world, is this: you do not drift into a great life. You design one. And the design begins not with your goals, not with your calendar, not even with your habits. It begins with a single, honest, uncomfortable question. Who are the 5 people you spend the most time with? Because here is what I know to be true after a lifetime of study and observation. Those 5 people are not just your companions. They are your curriculum. They are your forecast. They are the quiet architects of your future. And most people never stop long enough to examine the blueprints. Stay with me. Ending, because what I am about to walk you through is not a motivational slogan. It is a philosophy. And by the time we are finished, you will never look at your circle the same way again. Let me take you back to where this all began for me. Not the polished version you might have heard. The real version. I grew up in rural Idaho. Simple beginnings. My father was a farmer, and the land taught me things that no school ever could. It taught me about seasons. It taught me about sowing, and it taught me, slowly, painfully, about the law of the harvest. You reap what you sow, not more, not less. Exactly what you sow. But here is the lesson the farm did not teach me fast enough. The seeds you plant are not only the ones you choose deliberately. Some seeds are planted by the people around you, their words, then their attitudes, their expectations of what is possible. Those seeds go into the soil of your mind, whether you invite them or not, and they grow. When I was a young man starting out, I surrounded myself with people who were comfortable, good people, decent people, people I loved. But they were comfortable in ways I did not yet recognize as dangerous. They were comfortable with small dreams, comfortable with excuses, and comfortable with the idea that life simply happened to you rather than for you. And so, without ever making a conscious decision, I became comfortable too. Now, I want you to hear me on this. I am not blaming those people. That would be the easy thing to do. And the wrong thing to do. Personal responsibility is the foundation of everything I believe. The seeds they planted could only take root because I did not tend my own garden carefully enough. That is on me. That is always on me. But here is what I began to understand when my mentor, Mr. Schaff, sat me down and spoke plainly to me. He said, the people around you are either lifting you or they are lowering you. There is no neutral ground. I did not want to believe him at first. It felt too simple, too harsh. Surely the world was more nuanced than that. But then I began to apply the law of averages, that great indifferent mathematical law, to my own life. I looked at the 5 people I spent the most time with. I looked at their incomes, their health, their attitudes, their ambitions. And then I looked at mine. The averages matched, almost exactly. That was the moment I understood. One day on earth, This was not philosophy. This was arithmetic. And if arithmetic was working against me, I had the power and the responsibility to change the equation. Now, I want to address something directly. Because over the years, a version of this idea has been reduced, compressed down into a single sentence that people repeat without fully understanding what it means. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. People put it on coffee mugs. They post it on walls. And in doing so, they have stripped it of its depth. So let me tell you what I actually meant. I did not mean that you should immediately abandon everyone in your life who is not already successful. I did not mean that you should calculate your friends' net worth and cull the bottom performers. That is a cold and foolish misrating, and it misses the entire point. What I meant is this. There are 2 kinds of associations in your life. The first kind I call limited associations. These are relationships where the influence flows primarily in one direction, downward, where the conversations never rise above complaint, gossip, or the comfortable recycling of small ambitions, where the unspoken message delivered daily is, this is all there is. Don't reach too far. Don't change too much. Stay here with us. The second kind I call expanded associations. These are relationships where the influence lifts, where the conversations challenge you, where the people around you are doing things, building things, becoming things. And by proximity alone, your own standards begin to rise. Now, here is the critical distinction. You do not have to eliminate limited associations from your life. What you must do, what you are responsible for doing, is manage the time and weight you give to each category. Think of your daily hours as seeds. You have a finite number of them. Every hour you plant in a limited association is an hour you cannot plant in an expanded one. It is not about hatred. It is not about superiority. It is about stewardship. Then you are the steward of your own time, your own mind, and your own future. The question is not, are these good people? Most of them are. The question is, what is this association producing in me? Is it producing growth? Is it producing challenge? Is it producing a better version of who I am capable of becoming? Or is it producing comfort, stagnation, and the slow erosion of my highest ambitions? Answer that question honestly. And then, deliberately, thoughtfully, without cruelty, begin to adjust the balance. Here is something I want you to sit with for a moment. You are being educated right now, not in a classroom, not from a book. Then you are being educated by the people around you, and the curriculum is invisible. You cannot see it. You cannot feel it happening in real time. But it is happening every single day. Every conversation you have is a lecture. Every attitude you absorb is a lesson. Every complaint you listen to without resistance is a belief being quietly installed in the operating system of your mind. And the dangerous thing about invisible curricula is this: you graduate from them without ever knowing you enrolled. Let me give you a concrete illustration. Imagine 2 young men starting out in life with identical circumstances, same town, same education, same starting income. The first young man spends his evenings with a group of friends who talk about what went wrong today, who is to blame, and why the system is rigged against them. The second young man spends his evenings, even just 2 or 3 of them each week, with people who are building businesses, reading books, and talking about what is possible. Give me 5 years. Just 5 years, and I will show you 2 entirely different human beings, not because one was smarter, not because one worked harder in the conventional sense, but because one received a different curriculum. Now, I want you to be honest with yourself right now. Drop a comment below and tell me, which room are you spending most of your evenings in? Because the answer to that question is the answer to why your life looks the way it does today. The curriculum of association works through what I call the philosophy of proximity. You do not have to be taught something explicitly for it to become part of how you think. You only have to be near it long enough. The farmer does not explain photosynthesis to the seedling. He simply places it near the light. And the seedling does what seedlings do. It grows toward whatever it is closest to. You are no different. You grow toward what you are closest to. So the question becomes urgent and personal. What are you growing toward? Over the years, I have come to understand that the 5 people in your circle, whoever they happen to be, almost always fall into one of 5 distinct categories. And recognizing which category each person occupies is the beginning of wisdom. The first category is the anchor. The anchor is not a bad person. Let me say that again, because it matters. The anchor is not a bad person. But they are heavy. They are attached to where they are, and because they are attached, they pull, often without meaning to, on anyone who tries to move. The anchor speaks in the language of risk. That's too dangerous. What if it doesn't work? Why would you want more than what you have? Their love is real, but their fear is louder than their love. The second category is the drainer. The drainer is in perpetual crisis. Every conversation begins with their problems and ends with their problems. And now, I have compassion for people in difficulty. Deep compassion. But there is a difference between a person going through a season of hardship and a person who has made hardship their permanent address. The drainer does not want solutions. They want company in their suffering. And if you stay too long, you will begin to furnish the room alongside them. The third category is the comfortable companion. This is perhaps the most seductive of all 5, because the comfortable companion is pleasant. They are fun. They make the hours pass easily. But they have no ambition that challenges yours. They are content, genuinely, peacefully content with a life that, if you are honest with yourself, is smaller than the one you were born to build. Then the fourth category is the challenger. The challenger is the person who makes you uncomfortable in the best possible way. They ask you questions you have not asked yourself. They hold you to a standard you have not yet achieved. When you tell them your plan, they do not applaud, they probe. And at first, that can feel like criticism. But over time, you come to understand that their probing is the most loving thing anyone has ever done for you. The fifth category is the model. Then the model is the person who is already living, at least in some dimension, the life you are working toward. They are not perfect. They are not finished. But they are further along the road, and their presence alone recalibrates what you believe is possible. Just being near a model, watching how they think, how they carry themselves, how they respond to difficulty, is worth more than 100 books on the subject. Now, take a breath. And ask yourself who in your life falls into each of these categories. You do not have to answer out loud, but you do have to answer honestly, because your future depends on it. Now we arrive at what I consider the most misunderstood part of this entire philosophy. And I want to be careful here, because carelessness on this point causes real harm. There is a difference, a significant, important difference, between distancing yourself from an association and disassociating from it entirely. Most people, when they first encounter this idea, leap immediately to the most dramatic conclusion. I need to cut everyone off. I need to start over. I need to burn the circle down and build a new one. And in doing so, they create unnecessary pain for themselves and for the people they love. Let me offer you a better way. Distancing is the art of reducing the frequency and weight of a limited association without severing it. It means that instead of spending 5 evenings a week with the anchor, you spend 1. Instead of answering every call from the drainer the moment it comes, you return it when you have the reserves to give without being depleted. Instead of making the comfortable companion your primary social world, you make them a pleasant occasional visit rather than a daily residence. Distancing is not cold. It is not cruel. It does not require an announcement or an explanation or a dramatic confrontation. It simply requires that you become more deliberate with the gift of your hours. Disassociating, on the other hand, is the complete removal of an association from your life. And I believe this is sometimes necessary, but only in specific circumstances. When an association is actively destructive, when it involves behavior that is genuinely harmful to your character, your values, or your safety. When every encounter leaves you not merely flat, but diminished. In those cases, yes, you must have the courage to walk away completely. And you must do it without guilt. Because guilt is not wisdom. Guilt is just the feeling that you owe someone your future. And you do not. You do not owe anyone your future. But for most of the limited associations in your life, distancing is the appropriate tool. Not elimination. Not exile. Deliberate, loving, unapologetic reduction. Here is the principle I want you to carry with you. You can love someone and still limit how much of your most valuable time you invest in them. Love and proximity are not the same thing. You can wish someone well from a distance. You can hold genuine affection for a person while understanding that their daily influence is not serving your highest growth. That is not selfishness. That is stewardship. If what you have heard so far is landing, if you feel the weight of it, the truth of it, then I want you to do something right now, not tomorrow, right now. Subscribe to this channel, because this is what we do here. Week after week, we go deep. We do not trade in slogans. We do not offer shortcuts. We offer the kind of thinking that, if you sit with it long enough, genuinely changes the direction of your life. And what I am about to share with you in the next section, the actual process of auditing your circle, the specific questions I used myself, and the single most dangerous person most people never think to examine. That is where this conversation becomes truly personal. Stay with me. I want to give you something practical now. Because philosophy without application is just entertainment. And I did not come here to entertain you. I came here to help you think differently and then to act differently. When I first began to seriously examine my associations, I developed a set of questions. Not complicated questions, simple ones, but honest ones. The kind that require you to sit quietly and resist the urge to give yourself the comfortable answer. Here are the questions I used. Write them down if you are willing. First, after I spend time with this person, do I feel expanded or contracted? Not happy or unhappy. Those are too superficial. Expanded or contracted? Do I leave the conversation with more energy, more possibility, more belief in what I am capable of? Or do I leave smaller than I arrived? Second, what do we talk about? I have observed over many years that the content of your conversations is the content of your mind. If the majority of your conversations are about other people's failures, about the unfairness of the world, about why things that cannot be done, then that is the furniture of your inner life. While conversely, if your conversations are about ideas, about possibilities, about what you are building and what you are learning, that furniture is entirely different. Third, what does this person believe about me? Not what they say about me in flattering moments. What do they fundamentally believe I am capable of? Because People telegraph their beliefs about you in 100 subtle ways. In the questions they ask, in the advice they give, in the ceiling they place, invisibly but persistently on your ambitions. Find the people who believe in a version of you that you have not yet become, though those are the people worth investing your most valuable hours in. Fourth, am I becoming more like this person or less? This is the law of averages made personal. Track it honestly over 6 months, 1 year. Are you moving in the direction of who you want to be or away from it? The trajectory does not lie. And fifth, and this is the one that stops most people cold, if everyone in my circle stayed exactly as they are today, and I continued spending the same amount of time with each of them, where would I be in 5 years? Sit with that question. Do not rush past it. Let it be uncomfortable, because discomfort, properly used, is the beginning of change. Now, I want to tell you about the most dangerous person in your circle, and I suspect you already know who I am talking about even before I say it. It is you. You are the most dangerous person in your circle. Not because you are bad, not because you lack potential, but because you are the one person in the association that you can never distance yourself from. You are in every conversation. You are in every room. You are the constant, the one variable that is present in every equation of your life. And most people, when they do the work of examining their associations, look outward. They identify the anchor, the drainer, the comfortable companion. They make their adjustments. And then they wonder why things still do not change as quickly as they hoped. The answer is almost always the same. They did not examine the most powerful association of all, their association with themselves. What do you say to yourself in the quiet hours? What do you believe about your own potential? What story have you been telling yourself, day after day, year after year, about why the life you want is either coming soon or is somehow not quite meant for you? Because here is the hard truth. You can upgrade every external association in your life. You can find mentors. You can join masterminds. You can position yourself beside the most successful, generous, growth-oriented people in your field. And if your internal association, the conversation you have with yourself, remains one of doubt, unworthiness, and quiet self-betrayal, the external upgrades will not hold. The soil must be prepared before the seed can take root. I have seen this more times than I can count. A young person gets access to a remarkable mentor. They are in the room with greatness, and they cannot receive it. Not because the mentor is withholding, but because the young person's internal narrative is too loud, too insistent, too convinced of its own limitations to let the new information in. Work on yourself. That is the foundational instruction. Work harder on yourself than you do on anything else. Read, reflect, journal. Examine the stories you carry. Challenge the beliefs you inherited from the limited associations of your past. Because the greatest upgrade you will ever make is not to your circle. It is to the person at the center of it. Be honest with yourself right now. And what is the one story you keep telling yourself that is holding you back? Drop it in the comments. I want to know. And more importantly, I want you to see it written down outside of your own head where it can no longer hide. Standing now, let us turn from the audit to the action. Because knowing what to reduce is only half the work. The other half, the generative half, is knowing how to find and cultivate the expanded associations that will carry you forward. And I want to address a concern I hear often, particularly from people who are just beginning this journey. They say, I understand the principle, but I do not know where to find people like that. I am not in a position to simply walk into rooms with successful people. I do not have the connections. I do not have the access. I hear you, And I want to respond with something that took me years to fully appreciate. You do not begin by changing the people in the room. You begin by changing the room you are in. Let me give you 3 principles for expanding your associations, regardless of where you are starting from. The first principle is this: seek the room where the conversation is different. It does not have to be a physical room. It can be a book, a lecture, a gathering of people who share a serious commitment to growth. Wherever serious people are doing serious work, find a way to be near that. Proximity to excellence is the beginning of excellence. And in the second principle, become someone worth associating with. This is the one most people skip, and it is the most important. If you want to attract expanded associations, you must bring something to the relationship: curiosity, energy, reliability, a commitment to your own growth that is visible and genuine. And nobody of substance wants to invest their time in someone who has not yet invested in themselves. So before you seek the mentor, become the kind of person a mentor would be glad to find. The third principle: use the books. I cannot overstate this. The greatest minds in human history have left their thinking in books, ending for a few dollars or for free in a library. You can spend an hour in the company of the greatest philosophers, the most successful entrepreneurs, the wisest teachers who ever lived. If you cannot yet access the expanded associations you need in person, access them on the page. Read daily. Read deliberately. And let the ideas of great minds begin to reshape the furniture of your own. The expanded associations you need are not as far away as they seem. They are one decision away, one book away, one room away, one conversation away. But you must go looking. They will not come to find you. Standing here is something I want you to hold on to, because it will bring you peace in moments when this work feels heavy or cruel. Not every association is meant to last a lifetime. Standing, some are meant for a season. The farmer understands this. He does not plant the same crop in the same field every year without rotation. The land needs different things at different times, and so do you. There are people who were exactly right for the season of your life that is now behind you. They walked with you through difficulty. They gave you what you needed when you needed it. And now the season has changed. Your needs have changed. Your direction has changed. And the association that once lifted you has quietly and without malice become one that holds you in place. This is not a betrayal. This is seasons. And the grace, the dignity with which you navigate these seasonal transitions says everything about your character. You do not leave people with contempt. You do not announce your departure with a speech about their limitations. You do not burn what was good simply because it is no longer right for where you are going. You move forward with gratitude. You carry the lessons. You wish them well, genuinely, not performatively. And you walk in the direction your life is calling you. I have had associations in my own life that were profoundly important for a season and then gently, naturally faded as both of us grew in different directions. I hold no bitterness toward any of them. Each one gave me something I needed. Each one was part of the curriculum. And here is the flip side of this truth, which I find equally beautiful. New seasons bring new associations. The people who are right for the next chapter of your life are out there right now, building, growing, searching, just as you are. And as you do the work of becoming who you are meant to be, you will find each other. Not by accident, by alignment. You grow into your associations as much as you grow from them. And trust the seasons, do the work, and let the right people find you as you move forward. If this is resonating with you, if you feel like this is the conversation you have needed to have for a long time, share this with someone who needs to hear it. Danding because the people in your life who are ready to grow deserve to hear this too. I want to introduce you to an idea that I find endlessly useful. I call it the invisible thermostat. Every person carries within them a thermostat, a set point for what they consider normal. Normal income, normal effort, normal ambition. The normal standards for how they treat their time, their body, their relationships, their word. And like a thermostat, this set point works in both directions. When you fall below it, something pulls you back up. When you rise above it, something quietly, insistently pulls you back down. Now, here is the critical insight. Your thermostat was not set by you alone. It was set in large part by the people you have spent the most time with. If the people around you consider $40,000 a year to be a good income, your thermostat is set near 40,000. If the people around you consider reading one book a year to be impressive, your thermostat for intellectual growth is set very low. If the people around you respond to adversity with complaint and victimhood, your thermostat for resilience is calibrated to that frequency. And the most insidious part, when you begin to rise above your thermostat set point, when you start earning more, reading more, achieving more, the people around you will often, without even realizing it, begin to apply pressure to bring you back, not out of malice, out of their own discomfort. Your growth is a mirror that reflects their stagnation, and mirrors can be uncomfortable things. This is why association is not a soft secondary concern. It is a primary engineering question. If you want to raise your standards truly, permanently, not just for a week after a motivational video, you must raise your thermostat. And the most reliable way to raise your thermostat is to spend sustained time around people whose normal is your aspiration. When you are regularly in the company of people for whom your goal is simply Tuesday, something remarkable happens. Your thermostat recalibrates. In what once seemed extraordinary begins to seem possible. What once seemed possible begins to seem normal. And what begins to seem normal, you begin to do. This is the mechanism. Then this is why association is not inspiration. It is engineering, and you are the engineer. I have spoken for many years about the philosophy of small daily disciplines. Easy to do, and easy not to do. The formula for success and the formula for failure are almost identical. And the difference between them is so small that most people dismiss as insignificant. The formula for failure is this: a few small errors in judgment repeated every day. The formula for success is this: a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Now I want to apply this formula to the question of association, because the way you manage your circle is not a single dramatic decision. It is a series of small daily decisions. And like all small daily decisions, they compound. Every day you choose to spend an hour with someone who challenges your thinking instead, someone who simply confirms your comfort. That is a small discipline. Every day you choose to read 30 pages of a book written by someone who has achieved what you want to achieve instead of spending that time in a conversation that goes nowhere. That is a small discipline. Every day you choose to protect your most valuable morning hours for work that moves you forward instead of social obligations that drain you. That is a small discipline. Individually, none of these decisions feel significant. That is the trap. That is always the trap. The small decision is easy to make, and it is equally easy not to make. And because it is easy not to make, most people don't. Not because they are weak, because they do not see the compound interest accumulating on the other side. But look at those same small decisions over 5 years, over 10 years. Then the person who consistently chose the expanded association, the challenging conversation, the mentoring relationship, The person is unrecognizable from where they began. Not because of one great leap, because of 10,000 small steps, each one building on the last. This is the compounding magic that most people miss. They want the transformation to be sudden. They want the dramatic turning point, the one conversation that changes everything. And sometimes that conversation comes, but it lands differently. Lands deeper, it takes root faster. In the person who has already been making the small daily decisions because the soil has been prepared. Make the small decisions every day, consistently, without waiting for the perfect moment or the perfect association or the perfect circumstances. The perfect moment is now. The perfect circumstances are the ones you are standing in. Begin where you are, with what you have, and let the compounding do the rest. If you have stayed with me this long, if you have sat with these ideas, turned them over, held them up against your own life, then you already know something important about yourself. You are not the kind of person who settles for the surface version of things. You want the depth. You want the truth. You want the thinking that actually changes something. That is why you should subscribe to this channel, because this is what we do here every week. We go deep. We go honest. We go to the places most content is afraid to go. Subscribe now and make sure you never miss a message, because what I am about to share in the final sections, the single most important move you can make starting today, ending, and the truth about what happens to the people who actually apply this philosophy. That is where everything comes together. I want to close our time together with a picture, not an abstraction. A picture. Imagine a life. Your life 5 years from now. You have spent those 5 years doing the work we have discussed. You have audited your circle with honesty and without bitterness. You have gently, deliberately reduced the time you invest in limited associations. You have sought out and cultivated expanded associations. People who challenge you, model what is possible, and believe in a version of you that you are still growing into. You have worked on your internal association, the conversation you have with yourself, with the same diligence you applied to the external ones. You have made the small daily decisions consistently, even on the days when it was easy not to. What does that life look like? I will tell you what I have seen in the lives of people who actually did this work. Not what I imagined, what I witnessed. Their incomes changed, not because they chased money, but because the people around them operated at a higher financial standard, and the conversations they had, the ideas they absorbed, the opportunities they were exposed to, all began to reflect that higher standard. Then their health changed, because the people around them valued their bodies and their energy, and those values became contagious. Their relationships changed. Not just the associations they audited, but the new ones that came in to fill the space. Better people. More generous people. People who brought out the finest version of who they were capable of being. But here is the change that matters most. The one that is hardest to measure and most important to name. They changed how they saw themselves. Because here is the deepest truth about association. It is not primarily about what other people do for you. It is about who you become in their presence. The right associations do not just open doors. They open you. They expand what you believe is possible for your own life. They dismantle the invisible ceiling that limited associations quietly installed. And in its place, they build something far more valuable than any external achievement. They build belief, belief that you are capable of more. Belief that the life you have imagined is not a fantasy but a blueprint. Belief that the distance between who you are today and who you are capable of becoming is not a chasm. It is a road. And roads are made for walking. So here is what I want to leave you with. Not a task list, not a complicated system, one question and one decision. The standing in the question, who are the 5 people you spend the most time with? And what are they building in you? The decision starting today, I will be deliberate. I will be a good steward of my hours. I will love the people in my life. And I will be honest about which associations are serving my highest growth and which ones are not. And I will distance without cruelty. I will seek without desperation. I will become someone worth associating with. And I will trust that the right people are already on their way to find me as I move forward to find them. That is the work. It is simple. It is not easy. Earning and right, but it is available to you right now, today, exactly as you are. And one more thing. Gurney, if this conversation has added something to your life today, if it has given you a new way to see your circle, yourself, or the road ahead, do me a favor. You all want to share this with someone who needs to hear it, because the people in your life who are ready to grow deserve this message. And passing it forward is itself an act of expanded association. Taden, you know what to do. The 5 people standing between you and the life you want were never enemies. They were your mirror. Now you know what to do with what you see. Advent, thanks for being here. The end screen has more messages in this same world. Pick the one that calls to you. You're off a day. Thanks for being here. Choose whichever video on the end screen speaks to you next.